Hello, and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video, we're continuing our look at the Champions of Kamigawa themed decks, and we're going to continue with Snake's Path, which is a mono-green deck, which features the Orochi from Kamigawa. So, deck list here, so we have 24 creatures, 5 artifacts, 1 sorcery, 3 instants, 3 enchantments, and 24 forest, and a mana curve off to the side there. So on Kamigawa, there's no elves, so snakes are the green humanoid tribe, because I don't know why the snakes have 4 arms. That doesn't really imply snakes to me, but it is what it is. So yeah, kind of just it's not really a green stompy deck. It's or weenies really. It's kind of just like green mid range, honestly. Well, we'll see. So the snakes are kind of interesting. They do have some kind of abilities that weren't really on green creatures at the time, as we'll see. So these are some basic ones to start with. So it's sort of a trio of legendary snakes. So we have a single Sachi, Daughter of Seshiro. So 4 mana for a 1/3. Gives all your other snakes +0/+1, and shamans you control have tap, add double green to your mana pool. So, okay. Like, wasn't expecting shaman support, but it's here. And yeah, honestly, you've actually got there's a fair number of shamans in the deck. So yeah, this would have been okay. And then we have her brother Sosuke, son of Shishiro, who is 4 mana for a 3/4 snake warrior. Gives all your other snakes +1/+0. And whenever a warrior you control deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature at end of combat. So kind of like delayed death touch, kind of. So yeah, again, you've got a fair number of warriors in the deck as well. So this buff sort of applies to everything, and obviously gives all your snakes +1/+0 anyway. So these two are actually pretty cool, I think. I quite like them. So then we have Orochi Egg Watcher, and yeah, we get to talk about flip cards. So before double face cards, which are the norm these days, after they've been introduced in Innistrad. So before we had those, we had flip cards. So it had this weird layout where you've got kind of the art in the middle, and then you would play this as Orochi Egg Watcher for 3 mana. Has an ability. It's a 1/1. Has the ability where you pay 3, tap it, put a snake creature token into play, and then if you have 10 or more creatures, then it flips into its other side, which is Shidako, Brood Mistress, who's a 3/3. You can pay 1 green, sacrifice a creature to give a creature +3/+3 to end of turn. So there was kind of like a cycle of these flip cards, and I quite like them. Honestly, they're kind of goofy and cute the way they've tried to do this. Obviously, these days this would be a double face card. And maybe they'd have maybe slightly better effects because these text boxes are tiny, so they really had to squeeze in as much as they could in these text boxes. But this is not a terrible creature, honestly. 3 mana is maybe a little expensive, but then makes tokens and then turns into an okay creature that then can turn all those creatures you've made into giant growth effects. Not awful, in my opinion. So then we have 3 Kashi Tribe Reavers. So this is going to have the snake venom ability, I guess we'll call it, which is such a weird effect to see on a green card. So 4 mana for a 3/2 with regeneration. Okay, fine. We've seen that sort of stat line before. So this is the ability. So when Kashi Tribe Reaver deals combat damage to a creature, tap that creature, and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So that's normally an ability we associate with blue these days, like the freeze effect or the stun effect. But here it was in green, and it makes I think thematic sense. But yeah, it's just so weird to see this a bit. This is where it kind of originated from. Kashi Tribe Reaver is fine, I think. Just 3/2 with regeneration is absolutely fine. So we have 2 Kashi Tribe Warriors who have 5 mana for a 2/4, which is, I mean, it's just so expensive. But it has again the venom ability to whenever they deal damage, something gets tapped and it doesn't untap next turn. 3 Matsu Tribe Decoys. 3 mana for a 1/3. It has a lure effect. I mean, it's a very limited lure effect. It's firstly, it's very expensive to do, and then it only affects one creature. It's not like affects all your opponent's creatures. But again, it has the snake venom ability to tap creatures down. And then we have 3 Orochi Leaf Callers. This is actually a useless card in the deck, because it's 1 green mana for a 1/1, and it has an ability where you can pay 1 green to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. You're playing mono green. This is literally a useless ability in this deck. He's just a 1/1. He's just a 1/1 snake for 1. That's literally all it is. Yeah, really, really don't understand why it was put in here. I mean, I do understand why it was put in here because there just weren't enough snakes in the block. But then, like, why would you make a tribal? Why would you make a tribal snake pre-constructed deck when there's not enough decent snakes to fill it? I don't know. But yeah, this is actually genuinely a useless card in this deck. Not saying it's not good in other decks, but in this deck specifically, it's not. It's useless. 3 Orochi Ranger, so it's a 2/1 with the Snake Venom ability. Yep, fine. 4 Orochi Sustainers, 2 mana for a 1/2. It's just a mana dork. Taps to give you green, that's fine. Although with Sachi, it will give you double green, which is fine. But then you don't have like a lot of super expensive cards in the deck anyway, I guess. I don't know. So I don't know how useful that double green ability really would have been. I mean, it would have been helpful, but it wouldn't have like you would have got by fine without it. And then, the star of the deck, Sakura Tribe Elder. If you're a player of a certain age, you'll know this guy is Steve. And he's great. So 2 mana for a 1/1. You can sacrifice him, search your library for a basic land card, put it into play tapped, and then shuffle your library. So the play with Steve back in the day was like, just use him as a really good chump blocker. He would block something, and then you'd sacrifice him and get a land as well. So yeah, Steve was pretty great. I'm really glad there's 3 of them in the deck, and that's it. That's all the snakes now. So now we're into the non-creature spells. So we have a single lure, which is great. Lure is always good, and it just means the rest of the creatures can get through unopposed. So yeah, lure is perfectly fine. Like seeing lure in the deck. We have 2 Serpent Skin. So 3 mana. You can play it as an instant. So it's got flash, enchanted creature +1/+1, and it has 1 green. Regenerate the enchanted creature. Yeah, fine as an aura, I guess. I would say maybe even a little expensive, honestly, like 3 mana. But because ideally, if you want to, because really this is usually reads 4 mana regenerate a creature, right? Because normally you would want to play this at instant speed to save a creature that's going to die, so then you need to leave 1 green open for the regeneration as well, maybe. That's how I'm reading it, really. Then we have Strength of Cedars, so 5 mana. Target creature gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control. I think that's very, very expensive. Ideally, you would think like, oh, it's going to be +5/+5 at least because it's 5 mana. But you've got mana dorks as well. I don't know. I don't know what is the at what point this becomes kind of cost efficient. I would say 5 mana for +5/+5 is still kind of not great, honestly. When compared to stuff like Giant Growth, because Giant Growth is so efficient as a pump spell. I would say really you want to be giving at least like +7 or +8 to actually make it worthwhile. I don't know. It's okay as a pump spell. It's okay, I suppose. It's a little mediocre. A single wear away. This is just naturalized with the splice onto arcane mechanic. So we talked about splice before in the last video. Basically means if you cast an arcane spell, you can play the splice cost of wear away, which means you reveal it from your hand and you add its effect onto the spell you've just cast. Which is, I think it's a cool mechanic. And then a single Time of Need, which lets you, which is actually pretty good, honestly. 2 mana sorcery, you search your library for a legendary creature card and then put it into your hand. So like really efficiently costed tutor, and in a deck, in a block even where like every rare creature is legendary, and there's quite a few uncommon legendaries as well. This was a pretty good card. Obviously, this is great in this deck because it helps you find Sache or Sosuke to get them out as quickly as possible. So yeah, would have had more Time of Needs personally. And then just some artifacts to close things out. So I have 2 Hankayu, which is 1 mana for a equipment. Equipped creature has tap, put an aim counter on Hankayu, and then tap, remove all aim counters from Hankayu. This creature deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of aim counters removed. And it's equip 4, I've just noticed, which is absurd. I was thinking like, oh, it's 1 to cast. If it's cheap to equip, amazing. You could just put it on a creature you've played, like maybe one of the leaf callers who's honestly doing nothing else in this deck, and then you can just like build this up throughout the game, and then just do a massive like shot to like finish off the opponent. But the fact it's equip 4 is actually insane. So not only have you got to wait until you've got 4 mana to actually equip it, but then you've got to start doing all this tapping to build up the aim. Yeah, not. That's yeah. I'm not impressed by that. So one of the rares of the deck is Junkio Bell, which is 4 mana for an artifact. By the way, if I'm mangling the pronunciations of any of these cards, I'm very sorry. But it is what it is. So 4 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can have a creature you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control, which is pretty good. You're playing a lot of creatures, but then if you do, you sacrifice the creature at end of turn. So yeah, I guess it's okay. Really, this should be. I mean, what would make this better is at the beginning of combat to have this ability, because at the beginning of the upkeep, you've maybe then not got as many creatures out. Like you'll be casting some in your first main phase, which would make this bonus bigger. So really, this is kind of undone, I think, by having its ability trigger at not the best time. So the other rare is Orochi Hatchery. So it's double X. It comes into play with X charge counters on it. So actually, this is a good place to put all that like extra mana you're getting from Sachi, like all your mana from your shamans. So it comes to play with X charge counters on it. 5 and tap, put a 1/1 green snake token into play for every charge counter on Orochi Hatchery. So, you know what? I'm gonna. When is this going to be efficient? Probably 6 mana, I would say. So then it gets 3 counters, and then 5 mana, tap it to make 3 tokens. Yeah, I think that's about right. I would say that's about right. It's okay. It's okay as a card, I think. And then a single Sensei's Divining Top, which is I never thought much of this card at the time, and I was so surprised to learn like this card it just goes for so much money on the secondary market. It's insane. I've got like a playset of 3 upstairs in a box, and just like I should probably sell these. But yeah, so 1 mana artifact. 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. Tap, draw a card, then top goes back on the owner's library. It looks so innocent, but it feels, I think, because it's just really repeatable, like card filtering, card selection. So yeah, top is excellent. So what could have been? So. I think you could have dealt with a Commune of Nature. This would have been okay. You look at the top 5 cards of your library, you get a creature card from among them, put it into hand, and then the rest go on the bottom of your library. I think that would have been okay, just even one of those. Kadama's Might would have been alright, I think, just as a cheap pump spell. Yeah, maybe. So alternate rares. So I don't think the junk bell is that great at all. I definitely think we should have had one of these rare snakes because they're so much fun. So the options would have been Shisato, the Whispering Hunter, who is 4 mana for a 2/2. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sacrifice a snake. But whenever Shisato deals combat damage to a player, that player skips their untap step completely, which could be okay, kind of lock someone out. Got to obviously find a way to reliably get Shisato through to someone, but yeah, just kind of have like this one-sided stasis ability could have been super mean. I think even getting like 1 or 2 hits with that would have been really, really devastating. But I think it should have been Seshiro, who's like the big daddy snake. 6 mana, 3/4, gives all your other snakes +2/+2, which is a massive boost. And whenever a snake you control deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So yeah, Seshiro I think would have been a really good fun rare, and it makes sense as well. Like you've got his kids in here as well. So to have Seshiro I think would have been really like on theme. So in summary, what do I think of this? I do I do kind of like the snakes from Kamigawa. They are kind of janky. I don't think the card selection in this deck is great, honestly. But that's mostly because, I mean, if you look through the entirety of like Kamigawa block, like all the snakes are just really underwhelming, honestly. Um, there's not just like I don't know. There's just not like a really solid I don't know, like just like a 3/3 for like three with like a useful ability. Like they're all kind of overcosted, and like their power toughness isn't great, but they're overcosted because they have like the snake venom ability. And then like in later sets they get this weird sub mechanic of like adding mana that doesn't go away between phases. And like there's so many cards dedicated to that weird sub theme. So overall, I'm very conflicted on the snakes because I want to like them because I think they're a cool tribe. They definitely should have got some ninjas in Betrayers of Kamigawa. There definitely should have been some green snake ninjas. I'm really disappointed there weren't. Yeah, I think it's an okay attempt at making a tribal deck, but out of all the tribes in Kamigawa, you had like spirits at the top. That's the most support, and then samurai, as we'll see later, and then snakes are kind of like then the third most supported tribe, I suppose. And like it's honestly their card selection is not great. So this deck I think just comes across as a bit weak. I don't know if the play experience would have been too good, but that's just my opinion after looking at the deck. What did you think of the deck after seeing it? Did you have this deck and did you play with it? Did you make any changes to it? If you have experience with this deck, please let me know because I never owned this deck. I never played against it, so it'd be interesting to hear some first-hand experience from it. But I'll be back next time to look at another Kamigawa pre-constructed deck. But until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a great day.